Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the start of yet another My Friends Pick My TBR. I think this is number 6 that I've done at this point. I'm super excited. It's always one of my favorite things to do is have my friends take control of my TBR. This month, I, once again, reached out to my friends and asked them to pick 2 books each. But this time I did a twist. I went, instead of to my normal core 3, instead of Yeleni, SJ, and Sophie, I went to the bigger group chat, which has Sophia, Tessa, Alexander, and Hannah in it, and they each picked 2 books. And then because I was feeling spicy and the other 3 were like, why can't we pick 2? I was like, fine, you guys each get to pick 1 book. And now I have 11 books to read this month. And I'm a little nervous because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read all of them, because so far this year, I've only been able to read like 10 books a month. There was also a month where I only read 9 books. So hopefully I can get these 11 done. As always, I'm gonna keep it as spoiler-free as possible. It's gonna be a rapid fire, really long vlog. Get ready. All right, so the 3 that my friends picked, Sophie, Yeleni, and SJ, that were like my usuals, I only gave them 1 choice. Sophie ended up picking the Reformed Vampire Support Group, SJ ended up picking Detour Just a Baby, and Yeleni ended up picking The Murder of Mr. Wickham. My friend Tessa ended up picking The World We Make and Hellbent. My friend Sophia ended up picking The Atlas 6 and Elena Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend. Alexander ended up picking The Hollow Empire, which is another sequel. Actually, there's sequel. But yeah, Alexander picked The Hollow Empire and Redwall, and Hannah picked Hank Green's A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor and The Left Hand of Darkness. I'm happy to have these wonderful books to pick from. It's gonna be a good reading month. I have good faith in my friends and their picks. If they're not all bangers, I know I'm gonna have fun no matter what. So stick around, grab yourself a snack, coffee, a drink, settle in, get cozy, because it's gonna be a long reading vlog, but I'm excited. Because I don't really have an opinion on which book I'm gonna read first, I'm gonna roll D12 and pick, because there's 11 books, so I might as well pick with a D12. Number 11. All right, so let's go count. Start from the top. Well, this is gonna be kind of easy because there are 11 books, so The Murder of Mr. Wickham is first. Number 1, The Murder of Mr. Wickham.
A few moments later.
Hello, my lovely friends. I'm popping with a little update on The Murder of Mr. Wickham, and this is probably going to be the shortest book featured in one of these videos ever because it's a DNF. The concept is so fun. It's a murder mystery where you have the Knightleys hosting a month-long stay in their house. It's all Austen characters. It's too many characters. There's Lizzie and Darcy and their son. There's the Tilneys' daughter, I think, shows up. I'm not sure that the Tilneys are there. Fanny and Edward are there. Anne and Captain Wentworth are there. Like, it's so many characters. It's too many characters. I was losing it. And the way that this third-person POV is offered is that you are jumping from person to person's head in the same chapter without willy-nilly like planning. Like, there's no notion of when you're jumping in, and the writing is so bad, my guys. It's trying to be classic literature, but it's so dry. I just couldn't do it. I ended up flipping forward like after reading about 30 pages solid, and I was like, okay, when is this thing gonna kick off? It's a murder mystery. No one is dead yet. Kick off. And you go through it, and Wickham shows up unprompted and uninvited, and then he dies after page like 100. So I flipped forward until I got to that point, and I was like, okay, now I need to know who killed him. So like scrolled all the way through, or paged, I have a headache. I paged all the way through, my brain isn't working, till I found out who killed him. Not worth it. First book of the video, a little bit of a fail, but that's okay. Happens to the best of us. I will catch up with y'all when I pick another book to read, but so far, yikes. One more thing about this terrible book. That every time a new character was introduced in the first 2 chapters, which it took like 2 chapters to get everybody going and into perspective, which is too long. If it takes you that long to introduce all your characters, it's too many characters. Every time they were introduced, there was this like wrap up as you would in like a video, like describe the plot of each of their Jane Austen books. And I'm just like, why? No one cares. In the style of like, so like Emma and Knightley were together and no one thought they were gonna get married because of this. And then like the next paragraph was like, and Darcy and Lizzie were very similar. No one thought they were gonna get married. Well, and I'm like, come on, please stop. Anyways, it did make me want to reread a Jane Austen though, because I feel like I need to purge myself of this awful Austenite material and go back to the source. Hello, my lovely friends. It is now a couple days later. I don't know when the last time I was talking to you, but we're back, my friends, with the next book that I picked up. I intended to update you halfway through, but guess what? I'm done it. That's The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. Fully, 100% read the entire thing today. I don't want to say I couldn't put it down, because I definitely could have, but I knew if I put it down, I probably wouldn't want to pick it back up again because I'm in a really blasé reading mood right now, which is totally valid. It happens to me every once in a while. It also is the case because I just mentioned this in one of my reading vlogs. It is currently July 9th or July 8th or 9th, whatever. It's like 2 a.m. high. I really don't want to read any of these books on this TBR. Not that I don't want to read them like ever. They're on my TBR. I picked them because I do want to read them, but like at this moment right now, none of those books are intriguing to me, which is why I keep rolling a dice to pick them, because I'm like, whichever one, I guess I'll read. It's fun being a mood reader. It's my choice to do this, and yet here I am struggling. But The Atlas 6, I gotta say, was fine. Like, I came out of it and I was like, I kind of want to get the sequel. Like, I kind of want to know what happens next. I'm not gonna lie, kind of enjoyable. When you go into a book with like negative expectations, which is what I went in with this book, because I'm not sure if I mentioned it in this video yet, but my one friend Tessa, she read this book, hated it. Tessa picked 2 books on this TBR. And she said in the chat, she was like, I want to pick The Atlas 6, but I'm not going to because I'm not going to make you go through that. It was just, I hated it. It was not good. And then my other friend swooped in and was like, guess what? I'm picking The Atlas 6. So this is Sophia's pick. I'm glad that she picked it because honestly, I probably wouldn't have gotten to it without her picking it for like years. It would have been one of those books sat on my shelves, taking up space, and then eventually I would have like donated it or whatever without ever reading it. Anyways, The Atlas 6. What a book. I'm not mad about it. Truly. Atlas 6. It's about 6 people who have extraordinary powers. It is set in our world, I think. I think so because it's like talking about the Library of Alexandria at the beginning. So I assume so. It's kind of New York and London and stuff. So it's like set in our world. There's just magic. These 6 people get approached. Each one of these 6 people have a different magical ability, except for 2 of them. They have like an antithesis to each other. 6 of them come together. They essentially are put in this academic situation where they're studying some stuff. I don't really know what they're studying. The world building in this was kind of abysmal. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted more grounding in what the hell they were doing. I know they were working with time and like molecular level stuff. It wasn't enough for me. I needed to be grounded in the world building. I need you to give me like concrete, what the hell is a society? What's it doing? Why? Why is there magic in this world that nobody knows about? But there's also schools that these magic people can go to. I don't know. Like, it needed more in that sense. It was a very character-driven book. Nothing really happens. It's kind of like a lot happens and it's action-packed and like stuff is going on. But again, character focus. So yeah, the world building, I needed more concreteness in the world, but I gotta say, I didn't hate it. I want this to be a like mini series because all of these characters in here are so interesting to me. When we're getting introduced to them at the beginning, and Atlas, the guy who's like curating them all, is going around to each of them, I'm like, this feels exactly like a movie scene where you get like the opening to a movie with a bunch of different players in this game kind of a situation, and you're like, getting each like a glimpse into their lives and stuff. I think this would work fantastically as a TV show. And I think having it as a TV show could also help us ground it in like more of a reality situation, give it a little bit more of a world building feel to it, because otherwise this is just, yeah, the world building was abysmal in my opinion, but everything else wasn't too bad. Like, it wasn't bad. I kind of enjoyed it. It was fine. Like, don't hate it, which is wild because I expected to hate it. But because I went in knowing, 1, my one friend Tessa hated it. 2, the internet loves it for some goddamn reason. 3, the characters were kind of awful and it was a lot of like really highbrow intellectual stuff. I was like, great, okay, we're going in knowing all this stuff. Low expectations. I came out and I'm like, you know what, it wasn't that bad. So there you go. I didn't really care about any of the characters for a good half of the book. One of the characters really scares me. Callum, honest to God, terrifies me. I have never come across someone that I've read in a book that has so immediately terrified me like Callum has. I'm terrified of what this man can do. And honestly, he's a full-blown psychopath. He has no empathy, but he is an empath, which is terrifying because he can control other people's emotions and he can sense them and he can also make them think stuff. His powers are a little bit like amorphous and undefined. I think that's another thing. The actual like magic in this doesn't make no sense at all. I love it. It's got no rhyme or reason. Does it have limits? I don't think so, because they were messing with time. So like that aspect of it, not a fan of, but it's fun. Listen, you guys know, if you've been on my channel for a while, you guys know how much I love hard magic system with rules. It just makes me so happy. Hard, fast magic rules, so good. I don't want to be left just wondering what magic can do. I don't want a Deus Ex Machina magic situation where magic can just do whatever and save the day. No, I want rules, and I want there to be stakes. So the fact that this book has like literally no rules, these kids are here studying magic and becoming more powerful and amassing more energy. And I feel like Olivia Blake was trying to do something with science in here, and I don't know enough about science to like know, or I don't know enough about like the technicalities of science to really know if the science in here was correct. It doesn't feel correct because like it was dappling in stuff that like we as people have not yet really discovered, like time and like quantum physics, but like to the max. I'm like, did you study quantum physics, Olivia Blake? Is this you trying to flex, or is this you trying to like understand something that you need an entire like 8-year university degree to understand? Like it's a lot. But the fact that the kids just kept getting more powerful, and one of the narrators, Libby, in here at the end, she even says something like she doesn't know her own limits, and that's terrifying. The fact that these kids are just, I call them kids, I think they're in their late 20s. The fact that they have no limits on their power and they just keep getting more powerful, that's a little scary. That was a little scary. And also a little bit like, why? I don't know. So yeah, I have my problems with this book, but like it was very entertaining and I didn't mind it at all. Some of the complaints that I've heard about this book from people on the internet mainly is that because it has so many characters, it doesn't feel like it has a main character and doesn't really feel grounded. Totally true. As I said, didn't really feel connected to any of the characters, and even coming off of it, I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters. Like near the end when like stakes started kicking in, I was there and I was just having a good time. Like I wasn't really caring or worrying about any of the characters because I was like, whatever happens. So I didn't really connect with anyone, and I think the reason was because we didn't have a solid main character. Every single one of the characters in here pulled their weight in the spots that Olivia Blake wanted them to pull their weight. It didn't feel balanced at all. I don't know what I'm gonna rate this. I gotta sleep on it, but I'll let you guys know all my final ratings at the end of the video like I usually do. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. I apologize for my air conditioner, but this is a great pick. Number 7. It's gonna make me read The City We Became now, which I've been halfway through, which is my reread so that I can read this. This is a good pick. Good job, Dice. Hello, friends. It is now a couple days later, or a day later, whatever. I'm going to spend the weekend at my parents' this weekend because I'm taking care of Bella. It's for like 5 days. So I'm gonna roll to see which of the books I'm gonna take with me. So we already have the second City We Became book, which is The World We Make. So let's roll. Get it. 1. Okay. Number 1, I believe, is The Left Hand of Darkness. I will remember that. Number 1. And number 3. And 4. Okay. World We Make. And we also have 1, 3, and 4. I think that's a good combination. We have The Left Hand of Darkness, which is the sci-fi. We have this one and this one. My poor plant. I'm so sorry. We got My Brilliant Friend and Redwall. A good combination of books to bring. Hello, friends. We are now halfway through The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. This one is book 2 in the Great Cities duology. The first one is The City We Became. And this book was picked by my friend Tessa. This read is going so well. I am so pleased. It is going just about as well as The City We Became the first time I read that book. There is something about N.K. Jemisin's books that just keeps me so hooked. I am thriving. I really can't tell you much other than this duology is about, basically, if you took the idea, some cities feel like they are living and breathing embodiments and are like characters of their own, and taking that and run with it. And basically in this world, there are living avatars of cities that have awoken, that have become so great. They are like, they transcend history and stuff like that, like Japan and Tokyo and Sao Paulo. All of these great cities are living embodiments in people. The City We Became chronicles the moment of New York City's birth into one of these never dying cities, essentially. Book 1 follows the 6 boroughs as they all become living embodiments of their borough and thus have to try and help defeat the enemy because the living embodiment of New York, the city as a whole, is currently in a magically suspended coma due to a fight gone wrong with the enemy. And the enemy is this like interdimensional, extra dimensional being who comes around and like tries to kill cities when they're in that like really vulnerable birthing state so that they don't take over and take power. So there have been many different cities that throughout time almost been birthed, but then like something's gone wrong and the enemy is won and the city's been destroyed in some way. Some cities like Atlantis were real, but because they failed so hard in their birthing, they are now like, they've been shoved into this mythical ideology in humanity's brain because they failed so hard, and that's how badly they died. The city we became following the dual death battle situation of the city of New York against the enemy. And then this one, The World We Make, is the sequel to that. It's the compounding of that issue that was set up in the first one. And then it's also the realization that the stakes are actually a whole lot bigger than we thought they were. One of my favorite things about N.K. Jemisin is the lore that she builds in her worlds. She's such a master. This duology is it's so cool. It's got really good humor. It's got creepy eldritch horror shit. It's fantastic. Also, listen to the audiobooks. They're so fun. They have like audio enhancements in places. If you're listening to a newscast, it sounds like you're listening to a newscast, like a recording through something. When creepy weird shit's happening, creepy weird shit happens to the voice of the narrator, and like the narrator is putting her all into these. It's so good. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to it. Halfway through, and I'm thriving. All right, my friends. It is now a fair bit later, but I've finished The World We Make. What a book. What a read. Really, really enjoyed it as a sequel. Definitely very good one. I've talked about this book now in like 3 different vlogs, so if you want to know more about my thoughts, definitely go check out my Great Cities series video. But yeah, so it's gonna already be up on the channel by the time this goes live, so definitely go check that out for all my thoughts. This is what's next. Since I am doing a 24-hour readathon, I figured I might as well just dive right into this, even though it's 1 a.m. I'm gonna read a little bit of it, do like an hour or a half hour more of reading. Already read for 4 hours and 45 minutes today so far, so trying to do 24 hours this weekend of reading is gonna be great. Yeah, this is gonna be next. My friends have said that it's brilliant and amazing and they like it. Like multiple of my friends really like it, but they all have come around and said that I probably won't. Can't remember if they said anything about being happy or anything, but like friendship is at the heart of it, which is interesting. So I don't know what to think. I'm not expecting a rom-com. I'm expecting a literary book. So we'll see what the vibes are and I'll keep you updated. But yes, this was picked by my friend Sophia. It's from one of Italy's most acclaimed authors. Comes this ravishing and generous-hearted novel about a friendship that lasts a lifetime. It's the story of Elena and Lila that begins in the 1950s in a poor but vibrant neighborhood on the outskirts of Naples. Memorable portrait of 2 women, but My Brilliant Friend is also the story of a nation. Definitely going to be a literary novel for sure. So that's what I'm going in with. No expectations, so we'll see. Hello, my lovely friends. I'm currently halfway through, just over. It looks like I'm just over, but on the audiobook it says I'm 50% of the way through, so who knows? This is definitely a good read. It's giving me the same feelings that most literary fiction does when I read it. Like this is reminding me of, oh god, it's this something of Stella Fortuna that I read a few years ago. It's a lot of like descriptions of Italian countryside and that kind of stuff. And it's framed in a similar way, like it's going through the eras of the narrator's life. Fine. It's the same feelings as literary fiction. Generally kind of just, I'm just here for the ride. Like there's nothing really super entertaining about literary fictions to me. They're readable. They're fine. Like this is good. The writing is beautiful and I'm intrigued by the story, but I don't know. So far, it's just focused on our main character, who I think is named Elena, who is also the author's name. She's never really been called by her name in this, like her first name. It's always been just a nickname. And even then it's very rare that I couldn't even tell you what her nickname is because she's focusing so heavily on her friend. I put in air quotes because Leela doesn't seem like a friend. Like the vibes are rancid with this woman. I mean, they're kids right now, but yeah, like the vibes from when our narrator and Leela were like little children just meeting each other to now. I don't know, the vibes are so strange. I keep getting this feeling that like Leela did something to completely betray her friend, because like the very beginning, the very opening prologue, that's what it's called, is from the perspective of Elena, and it's Reno. So he's talking about his mother, who is Leela, and saying that she's disappeared, and the narrator doesn't care. I don't know. But yeah, it's fine so far. I apologize if you can hear any wet mouth sounds. My dog is having an anxiety attack right now because it's raining outside, but I am gonna just keep going with it. Like, it's fine. It's a entertaining, churning story about these girls growing up in Italy after the war. It's them like kind of coming into adulthood. Not really much to report on. It's not bad. It's not blowing me away a new favorite, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes. And with that, my friends, I'm done my brilliant friend. It's a couple hours later. It's just after 5, and this was just fine. Like, nothing happened. But it's of course, it's a bildungsroman, so like nothing does usually happen. But yeah, I think this is just kind of cementing the fact that I don't really love coming of age novels a whole lot. I just find them boring. Nothing really goes on. These two don't feel like friends. They don't really talk to each other about their like internal thoughts or problems. They don't really seek each other out when they need like emotional help. I don't know. They really don't feel like friends to me. Could just be me, but yeah, no, nothing really happened in these like 300 plus pages. I mean, it's beautifully written. The writing is gorgeous, and I can see how this is like something that people would absolutely adore, especially this whole series, because this is only the start, right? It ends with one of the girls getting married. So it's like that entire chunk of their life from childhood, from meeting to one of them getting married. It feels almost like Anne of Green Gables in that way, of like following the girls from a specific time in their life, but instead of focusing on like the main character and learning a lot about her studies and stuff like that, it's focused almost entirely on her infatuation with Leela. We had one moment at the end there where it got a little queer. I don't know if that was on purpose. Like, there was one moment where it was just like, she sees Leela naked and she's just like overcome with this emotion, and I'm like, you gay, honey? What? It felt so out of place. Did I like this book? Not a whole lot. So my friends were right. Yeah, our main character felt like she had very little personality. And maybe it's because it was told in first person. We didn't get a lot of her feelings and thoughts on the world and growth on her part. She was just obsessed with how she looked. She thought she was ugly because she was fat, and hated that part, hated the fat phobia in here, and was obsessed with her friend. Literally from even before they were friends, she was like obsessed with her and obsessed with like doing the best and meeting her like academic level. And then even when her friends stopped going to school because her family couldn't afford to put her in school and keep her studying, like, she was obsessed with doing the best just to hold it and lord it over Leela a little bit. But then when she found out that Leela was studying on her own and was still like extremely smart, she was just like so affronted. And I was just like, these girls don't feel like friends at all. They just, I don't know about it. That's Elena Ferrante. On to the next one. Hello friends, I'm officially now halfway through The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. And I can officially say I don't know what's going on, and I am not enjoying myself. What the fuck is this book? I don't get it. Am I too dumb for this book? I don't even know who our main character is because he's been introduced with multiple names. I couldn't tell you what his name is. And then we have weird, every so often interspersed chapters about something completely different that I don't even see the tie to the main storyline. So I'm not having a good time because I don't understand what's happening. And it's not in the case of like The City We Became not understand what's happening, because at least that one, there was a thread of like, I could follow it even though I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm having a good time. Like, this is not a good time. I can't comprehend most of the language that Ursula K. Le Guin is using. I'm struggling. I'm not having fun. But I'm gonna finish it because I've already DNF'd one book for this video. So if you've read The Left Hand of Darkness and understand it, please explain it to me in the comments, because I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up reviews online because I'm struggling. All I understand is what's given to us on the back, and that's the fact that our main character is an envoy to this new place. He's a man. He identifies as a man, and he's on this planet that has very fluid gender. They treat people of like straight cisgenders as like how trans people were treated in the 60s, you know? Like it's a complete opposite where like if anyone doesn't follow like the fluidness of their gender, they were like othered and considered weird and considered a pervert and a monster. And I'm like, what? Our main character acknowledges the fact that these people don't follow the same gender roles, and yet he genders everyone he sees as a man. He, him. The pronouns are he, him, and like nothing else. I have not come across a she, her properly like in conversation with our character. So that says a lot about our character, I think. And I know this was written in the 60s, so like it doesn't have as much openness as we and our gender community, and not as much language to address what's going on as our community in 2023. But it's bothering me because like even though he acknowledges that people around him are fluid, he's never once asking them what they identify as in that moment. He's not asking them what they are. He's just assuming, he's putting his perception of gender on people. And I'm not having yeah. So I don't know about this one. I'm struggling, y'all. I'm struggling with this book. The audiobook was only 3.5 hours long at the speed that I'm listening to it at. And I feel like I've been reading it for a year. I have an hour left and I don't know if I can make it. Hello, my lovely friends. I have officially finished. Did I tell you that I finished The Left Hand of Darkness? I think I did. I think the last update I did was to say that I was struggling. I was struggling until the bitter end. Really didn't like that book. That was a hard time for me. I think it was because of the density of the prose. It had nothing to do with the actual like story or world or anything. It was just the prose. I had no idea what was going on. It took me until the 80% mark to realize there were two main characters because both of them were first person and they were voiced by the same guy on the audiobook, and I wasn't paying close enough attention, I guess, even though I was like really trying to. Didn't know there was two main characters. I was so confused. There was so much of it. So the last like 20% of the book did get cleared up a touch, but even then the prose was so obtuse, so thick, so unnecessarily hard to follow for me. And that's coming from someone who reads classics for fun. That book is gonna be a no for me, unfortunately. But anyways, I'm here now and we've picked up the next one, which is the biggest whiplash 180 I could possibly do, which is Redwall by Fran Jacques, which is a cute little fantasy middle grade that follows a little town of like woodland creatures, and I'm thriving. Prose is so much easier to follow because it's like younger middle grade. The prose is easier to follow. Literally anything would be easier than freaking Ursula K. Le Guin, but like, from coming from Ursula K. Le Guin's incomprehensible prose to a younger middle grade book, my brain is thanking me right now. I've done Redwall. Why was that the sweetest thing I've ever read? Oh my god, it got me right at the end. It got me. It's been so long since I've properly like cried over a book too. Wow, what a good read. That was honestly one of the most violent, death-filled middle grades I've read ever. But it was so good. The amount of death in these pages is unreal, but it's done in a way that's still so like gentle. What a good book. Oh my god. I can't wait to like read this to my kids one day. This is so sweet. I say it's so sweet after saying that it was filled with death, but like, oh my god. What a good story about like all these different animals coming together, and you know, Matthias, our little main character, becoming the warrior he needs to be, and through that journey, like uniting everyone against a common evil. God, what a good book. Thank you, Alexander, for having me read this. This was great. It's so good. The full cast audiobook, so good. I can't even tell you guys like what I would compare this to because I've never read any animal fantasy. It kind of feels a little bit like, oh my god, The Book's a Beginning by, I think it's John Stevens. Feels a little bit like that, but those books read a little older than this one does. But it still has that like genuine heart at the middle of it. That was so cute. What the hell? Another book down. Man, I'm burning through them this weekend. 24-hour readathons are the best, apparently. Oh my god, I'm going from that to this now. Because this is what I rolled. I went home yesterday because I knew I only had 4 books with me, and I kind of knew at the speed that I was reading them at that I was going to need more to get through the 24-hour readathon, because I'm doing the 24-hour readathon that like I do by timer, so however long I read I time it, and it's like 24 hours cumulatively over a weekend at 17 and a half hours in. So I'm gonna keep going. I think I might need to take like a 5-minute break just to enjoy the feelings of Redwall, because that was so sweet. Hello friends, it is now a couple days later, and I wanted to pop in because last night I finished Hellbent, and honestly I don't know what it was about it. It felt empty. It felt like it was missing something, and like the plot of it just wasn't well done. It felt a little aimless. I don't know. I almost want to say felt like I needed to reread Ninth House and then read Hellbent. But now that I'm done Hellbent, it has the feeling to me that I need to reread the both of them to really understand the story, because there's a lot of stuff in here that I just didn't really know why it went on. I feel like a lot of the magic system and the world building was just not cohesive. Like suddenly we have vampires. I don't understand why. So I feel like I need to do a reread of Ninth House and then this like back to back at some point, probably before book 3 comes out, whenever that is. Yeah, it was just okay for a sequel. Like I really enjoyed Ninth House when I read it, but this one only gets 3.5 stars. It felt like something was missing. It felt like the plot really wasn't there. It was very easy to read, compulsively readable, as Lee Bardugo's books are. I'll give it that. But yeah, I'm intrigued by the expansion of the world. It was kind of a miss for me. I don't know why. I was expecting to love it a lot more because I really enjoyed Ninth House, and I've read most of Lee Bardugo's other books other than her King of Scars duology. Haven't read that yet, but I guess it just wasn't for me, or it didn't work for me at this point in time that I've read it. Maybe that's what it is. I only have 4 books left to read for this video, so I got them stacked over there, and I figured why not do a cheeky little roll of a D4 to pick the next one. Got our D4, let us roll. What number is that? Number 3. All right, if we look over there, number 3 is, oh, it's the Hank Green. That works for me. Let's go get it, and we'll start reading it at some point. Hello, friends. Please excuse my bedraggled appearance. I just went for an non-planned, like 30-minute walk with my dog because I'm currently looking after her mom and dad are at a wedding. I am officially halfway through A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green, which is the sequel to An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. So I can't really say a whole lot because I don't want to spoil anything about the sequel. What I will say is I am enjoying it. I don't think I'm enjoying it as much as the first one. The first one was such an interesting look at an unlikable character and this event. You know, I remember picking up An Absolutely Unremarkable Thing or An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, whatever. The first book, there we go, that's easier to say. On a whim, I got like the audiobook through Libby, and I was listening to it mostly on a road trip. I was listening to that one, and I wasn't expecting to like it that whole much. I was just like, well, everyone seems to like it, and I'll listen to it just for funsies, but I like don't have high expectations. And I came out absolutely enjoying the hell out of it, you know? It was such a good experience reading it, and it was honestly, genuinely a really great book. I've just been putting off diving into the sequel for no reason at all. I'm glad that I finally have it on this list, and my friend Hannah picked it. The first one is about April May, who becomes an internet sensation after she's the one to discover, or the first person to come into contact with, these mysterious beings that have appeared all over the world called the Carls. And it essentially sets off this like quest to figure out what these things are. It's also her fame. It's a look at her fame and social media and the perceptions of people in social media and money and what that can do to a person and how honestly she's an awful person. And then it also has like what the Carls can do and these interesting dream sequences that kind of bring other people together and onto April's team. It's all this kind of stuff. And this is the continuation of it because at the end of the last book, something happened with the Carls and people still don't know what they are. People still don't know where they came from, but it's also April's friends dealing with something. It's more focused on them than the first book. The first book was definitely April focused. This one's focused on her friends. I don't know, I'm finding it less interesting, but also still enjoyable. Like Hank Green writes a very, very enjoyable, readable book. Hello friends, it is now the next day, and I've not only finished A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, but I've also finished Detransition Baby as well by Tori Peters, which was another one on this list. I don't know how to feel about that one. So we're gonna talk about A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor first. So this one was a really great sequel. It did what Hank was trying to do pretty well. My comments do stand though. I do like the first one better. This one just felt like it was trying a little bit too hard, whereas like the first one was an interesting exploration of stuff. This one was trying to be a little bit too much of a like, humanity is great, but if we give power to humanity, we can be shitty. Like it was trying to say some stuff and it was saying it very loud. Hank's writing is so lovely and good and snappy, and I think what he does really, really well is he gets the need for prose to be really tight and snappy and interesting. I did enjoy this. Not as much as the first one, but I'm glad I finally read the sequel and finished another duology. And then I did Detransition Baby today by Tori Peters. This was picked by my friend SJ, and this is a very queer, very trans story centered on the idea of motherhood and mothering and what that means in a gender point of view. It's about Reese, who is a trans woman. It's about Katrina, who is a cis woman who is currently pregnant. And it's about Ames, or Amy. Katrina and Ames are having a baby together. It's very entangled and it's a lot. You have to read it yourself to kind of wrap your mind around it. But I found this narrative very interesting. I don't know if I can say that I liked it though. I don't know. As a cis white woman, I don't really have that many opinions that are, like, I can't say much about this book because I don't know. I don't know about being in this situation. It was fine. It was like, the prose is beautiful. It was well done. It was well crafted, but I just don't know if I enjoyed it. But yeah, I think this is one of those books that I don't know how I'm going to rate it. I'm going to need to sit on and think on it for a bit, but it was so queer, which was so great. But there's so many different things in here that are just so triggering to it can be so triggering to various people that, God, I'd be so careful going into this if you're at all interested in it. I think I'm gonna start the Reformed Vampire Support Group next, because I want to keep Hollow Empire by Sam Hawke for last, because I think I'm gonna really, really enjoy that one, because I loved City of Lies, which is the first one in that duology, but I think this one's gonna be next. It's gonna be so weird going from the heavy thought-provokingness of both A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, because that one has a lot of thought-provoking stuff. My God, you can just see Hank's like ideas on science and humanity and everything just pouring out on that page, and there's a lot to like try comb your brain through with that one. And then you have just whatever Detransition Baby was. And then you're gonna go to a YA about vampires. So we'll see how this one goes. I literally know nothing about it except for the fact that it was my friend Sophie who picked it and who got this book for me. One of her favorite books from when she was younger, when she read like 10 years ago or something ridiculous. And she doesn't know whether it's going to stand up or not, so I guess I'm the guinea pig. But yeah, The Reformed Vampire Support Group by Catherine Jakes. Hello, friends. I am halfway through The Reformed Vampire Support Group, and I have very few thoughts on this one. This is about a group of vampires who call themselves the Reformed Vampire Support Group. And unlike the vampires we know from pop culture, these guys are just normal people. They're kind of weak. They're just normal people who can't eat anything and are sick on a regular basis. And in this, they find one of their members staked through the heart and turned to ash, and then end up getting entrenched in some werewolf things. So like in general, kind of fun and kooky. And I think overall, if it's not taking itself too seriously, which I'm not sure if it is now, but at the beginning I'm like, oh, this is not taking itself seriously at all. Like, it's just having a fun time. The voice is very, very voicey. It's very Australian. Our main character is a 15-year-old vampire, but she's been alive for over 50 years at this point, but she sounds like a whiny teenager. And I think like the author's trying to explain a lot of her inexperience away by having her have been like locked in her mom's basement for a while. Not like actually locked, but the fact that like vampires can't really do anything during the day because they will die if the sun. They also, these ones like conk out at sunrise. They like just fully pass out at sunrise and then they wake up at sunset, which I think is interesting. So she hasn't really left home ever until this book, and she's got very little experience, and she's an author, I think. I don't know if she's like trying to become an author or if she is an author. I'm not sure, but it reads so strange because she's supposed to be like in her 50s, even though she looks like a 15-year-old girl, but she acts like she's 12, and I don't know about it. I'm trying to keep my brain open because it's like a kitschy take on the vampire myth. We just got introduced to a werewolf, and I want to rip the book apart every time he's on page, because every time he talks, I don't know maybe it's the audiobook narrator because I have the audiobook for it, but like he's just grating and I cannot. I also don't really know where this is going. Like, I know it's like they're trying to figure out what happened to their friend so that it doesn't happen to the rest of them, but I don't know. I don't know about this one. Hi friends, I have finished the Reformed Vampires work group. I literally have no thoughts. Sure, it was a little fun, it was a little silly. Did I enjoy myself? No. I can honestly see it being like one of those absolutely god-awful sitcom-y like shows in a way, just the way that it's presented, because God, the ending was such a mess. It was so chaotic. I was just, at that end, I was just skimming it because I was like, half of this doesn't make sense, so I'm just here and barely paying attention. But yeah, I can see it being a stupid sitcom like show. I think it would be great if it was a show like that. It wasn't very good at all. All right, my friends, one book left. I can't wait to read books that I want to read. This month has been, I don't know, like, I don't want to say bad because it hasn't been bad. There have been good books that I've read, and I'm really glad that I've read most of these books because, you know, I probably wouldn't have read them anytime soon if my friends hadn't picked them as a choice. But like, I've had a couple just disappointments. We had a DNF, a book that should have been a DNF for The Left Hand of Darkness. This one I would have DNF'd if I could have. Again, just generally not like fantastic. Haven't come out of this with any favorites yet. Maybe Hollow Empire will be that, but yeah, I'm glad that there was a lot of sequels on this list for sure, because I needed that. I need someone to make me read some sequels. Anyways, I'm gonna hang in here and I'll let you know how I feel about Hollow Empire when I'm halfway through that. Hello friends. I forgot to update you when I hit the halfway point of this book. I'm now on chapter 17, page 319. So I have this much left to go, so just over halfway, but I just read some of the most harrowing shit I've read in a really long time. And like, it wasn't delivered to me as like John Gwynne would write, like the really dark fantasy kind of a thing, like seeing a war zone. No. This is delivered in the way of like someone who can really write action very well, because Sam Hawke is really good at that, but also with the emotions tied into it. I'm already feeling a little delicate today because today is a delicate day apparently. I sobbed. This halfway mark in this freaking book, there's a full out like terrorist attack level, bombing an entire area, not caring about civilians who might be affected. The descriptions, sobbing, because the emotions is not just gore and grim and terrible, it's also isolated to the first person POV in this book, either from Joven or Kalina, and you see most of the explosion happen from Kalina's point of view, because for a while of it you don't know if Joven's okay. It was so much. It was so much, and they're still going through it. It's been like 6 chapters, and I'm still like reeling. Anyways, honestly, I wasn't loving it in the first 25%. I thought I would have to reread The City of Lies because there was no summary online. I thought I was gonna have to reread The City of Lies before going into this, but then when I started, it took me like a hot sexy second to realize it's 2 years after the last book or more. There's a time jump after the first book, so they kind of stand on their own fairly well enough. Sam Hawke, freaking master at being the person to like knit in like just commentary on what happened in the last book as a like, this happened 2 years ago, this is like the effects of the war when this and this happened. Like, it was so subtly done throughout the first 30% of the book that I feel like every fantasy author needs to do that. Like, every fantasy author needs to take a page out of Sam Hawke's book to be able to do the recaps, you know? I think it took me until like page 170 to really fall into it and to really start caring. And it's not like it was bad. I'm in such a weird reading mood. I felt so detached. But now where I'm at, in the 300s, after reading the most harrowing bullshit just now, I am enjoying it. I think it's not going to be 5 stars, I can tell you that right now. But it's one of those books that some of the writing is bothering me in the way of like, it's just so dramatic, and for what? Like, the end of the chapters are so drama, or they're like questioning, like they don't know what they're expecting next, and it's all first person point of view, and usually it's from Joven's POV, so like Joven's just a dramatic bitch, I guess. I don't know. I was fully prepared to come in at the halfway mark and be like, yeah, so this book isn't that great. I'm not enjoying myself like I've been for every freaking book in this video, but I am emotionally distraught. This is a good book. Oh god. I feel so physically drained from this book. Either past me forgot what City of Lies was like, or Sam Hawke stepped up her motherfucking game. Because ow! Oh my god! Holy shit. This shit was so intense. So intense and so brutal. Like, as I explained at the halfway mark, shit was like John Gwynne level brutal, but mixed with like actual emotions that Sam Hawke does really, really well. And then I sobbed so hard I now have a headache. I had to take an Advil because of this fucking book. Was this the best book I read this entire month? Maybe. Holy shit. And it leaves it open enough at the end that, like, low key, we could get another one. I don't know if Sam Hawke is planning on writing another one in this series, but I kinda hope she is. So, like, even though it is a sequel to the City of Lies, which is the first book, kinda stands on its own. Like, there's something that's introduced in the City of Lies, which is, like, the big war shit happening and the rebellion and stuff like that, but it's a specific rebellion regarding the magical people in this section of the empire, if you will. Malaysia, I think is what it's called. There's no map in here. This would benefit from a map. Holy shit. Any fantasy book would benefit from a map. That's just my opinion. So in the City of Lies, there is a war that's set up, and an internal, like a civil war between these super oppressed magic users and stuff. And I've read a bunch of reviews that are like really negative reviews, but they're coming from the point of view of like, these books are written from the point of view of the 1% about the like 99%. That's very true. And I think it would have been really interesting to have the other side, to have a point of view from the other side, from the magic side. But I understand why there wasn't, because these books are already super chunky and packed full of politics and so much going on with the two POVs that we have with the Joven and Kalina, that having another one in here would just have clogged everything up so much more. But I think it would have been a really interesting study to do, to have the perspective from the other side, especially in the City of Lies, because that one is about a civil war, right? And if you're only getting the one perspective, you're obviously getting the perspective of the victor, which is, like all history books, the story that they want to tell. But I think it's interesting to me that in this one, it's like that war was just the beginning of something else that's brewing in the background. And it almost makes me want to reread this to understand what was brewing in the background more, like both of them. Like, I want to reread The City of Lies and then this one to understand what was going on in the background and the political machinations of it. What an interesting book. I think the comment on the fact that it's a book from the 1%'s point of view about this rebellion and quelling the rebellion, the first one especially. And then in this one, it's more about like the 1%, not even the 1% at this point. It's like the 0.01% of people in this city having to come together in these moments of intense and absolutely brutal trauma, and then have these moments of shared trauma, even though as like families, all these like important families on the council, they don't always see eye to eye. They never really see eye to eye. But in these moments, there's this shared trauma and they all come together. They have to protect the city, kind of a thing. And I think there is so many fantasy books with that perspective, but you get that perspective from the royals, right? Like, you don't usually see that perspective from the outside of it unless the rebellion won, you know? Like, if you have the perspective of the royals, you know the royals are going to win over this rebellion and it's going to be painted as this, like, bad thing. But what I found really interesting about these two books is that in the City of Lies, that rebellion, yes, it was painted as a bad thing, but it was done because these people who live amongst these you know, the magic users are being oppressed and they're fucking sick of it. It was just the roots of what was really going on. God, do I want to know more. I want to know more about what was really going on, about these people who were coming in and who believed so strongly on their points of views that it was like this super long infiltration of things. Like, these weren't perfect books. They have their issues. Even now, I'm like starting to pull at plots and like pull them apart like threads. But it's so interesting to me. Like, I think that's what really intense like political fantasy does to me. I get so into it, my friends. I don't know what it is, but I think you can tell by my reaction, this was the winner of the video.
I don't even know if I could give it a full 4.5 stars though. Like it might only get 4 stars because I had some issues with the beginning, really connecting with the characters and stuff like that. But that might have just been my reading mood. This book was really freaking great, and the pacing was exceptional. The stakes were insanity. The characters were incredible. I'm gonna have to sleep on it and put it through compile before I officially finish up this video, but fucking hell, what a way to end. Hi friends, it's officially the end of this vlog. We're gonna go over the books that I read and their ratings, my final thoughts. All right, so we started off this video with a DNF, with the murder of Mr. Wickham. So this doesn't get a rating, it's a DNF. You can consider it a 1 star, I guess. But after that, we kind of got into a little better of a groove. So the Atlas 6, I believe I gave it 3.5 stars. Honestly, so forgettable. I had a good time reading it. It was enjoyable, it was entertaining. Wasn't really that great in any way. Kind of forgettable, posh, pompous. Will I read the next one? No. I have so many other better sequels and series that I can be reading, but I'm glad that I did read it, and I'm glad that Sophia picked it for me to read, because I don't know how long I would have sat on my shelves otherwise. Then we kind of dove into, I think that's when we dove into the 24-hour readathon, and I ended up reading 4 books during that. I ended up reading The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin, which I ended up giving 4.5 stars for. So glad I finally finished this duology. It was definitely so much fun, and just a solidification, if you will, that N.K. Jemisin is one of my favorite authors of all time. Then I ended up going into Elena Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend, which was kind of boring. It just didn't really work for me. But it wasn't like a bad reading experience. I had an enjoyable time reading this because it was definitely one that, I don't know, there's always a specific kind of reading experience that I get when I read literary fiction. And this was that for me. I'm not a literary fiction girly. You guys know this. I'm a fantasy sci-fi girly. This wasn't my vibe, but I think I ended up giving this one 2.5 stars. I ended up reading Left Hand of Darkness, which was my least favorite read of this video, besides the DNF. I don't get it. I don't get the hype. I don't understand this book. Didn't have a good time. I gave this 2 stars. Oh well. And then I read Red Wall by Brian Jacques, which was such an enjoyable little palate cleanser after all those intense books. And I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. But I will say, after reading this, on being on the internet, it was a couple days ago, I saw someone mention that, or like ask if Red Wall stands up, essentially. And someone was like, hard no. It has that old fantasy idea of like all of one race is evil, all of one race is good, kind of a thing. So in that stance, it does not stand up, but it is such a sweet little read. I had a great time. So do consider that if you are at all interested in this. It is from the 80s, so like, I get it. Then I started reading Hellbent during that 24-hour readathon, and then I finished it later that week. And I ended up giving this one 3.5 or 4 stars. I think it was 3.5 stars. It just, as a sequel, didn't really do it for me, but I did enjoy the reading experience because you cannot deny Leigh Bardugo has some incredibly compulsively readable writing. Her writing is so fantastic. It's why she's such a powerhouse in the YA genre. Makes so much sense. As this is not YA though, need to clarify that. Ninth House and Hellbent, not YA. I think her compulsively readable writing style does lend to this pretty well, but the plotting in here was just not it for me. Felt a little directionless the whole time. Didn't really have the gravitas of Ninth House that I liked a lot when I read Ninth House. I think both of them do deserve a reread, just because I feel like I was in a weird reading mood this month as well. Maybe this one deserves a reread. I'm not sure, but yeah, 3.5 stars. And then from there, we dove into our last 4 books of the video. I read A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green, which again, another sequel. This one was, again, just okay for me. I think the first one does so much better than this one does. This was good, still really action-packed, still really compulsively readable. Again, Hank Green, his prose, like Leigh Bardugo's, is so snappy. Leigh Bardugo's snappy? Not necessarily, but his prose, very snappy, very compelling, and holds your attention. But this one I only gave 3.5 stars as well. Then I picked up Deep Transition Baby by Tori Peters. This one really didn't work for me, and I don't think it's for me, but I will say I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I read it. Like, it just keeps coming up in my brain as I'm talking to people about different things, like because this is so relevant. It's a fantastic book. I just didn't enjoy the reading experience. That isn't to say that you guys won't, because my friends who have read it loved it. Loved the reading experience. They gave it both like 4.5 stars, kind of a thing. So my 3-star rating of this, don't take it with anything more than a grain of salt. If you're interested in it at all, please pick it up. Then I ended up picking up The Reformed Vampire Support Group by Katherine Jinks, and this was boring and kind of bad, but in a like, I don't want to stop reading way, but if also in the kind of way that like, if I had to put it down, I would have had such a hard time picking it up. again. So the fact that I could read it in like 3 hours in one evening, it was enjoyable, it was stupid, but it was bad. And it feels like a terrible sitcom that would be on the airs for too long, and you watch just because it's trash, and because it's trash you're like, this isn't that bad. You hate to love it kind of trash. I gave it 2 stars. I'm not mad that I read it though, so there's that. And then finally we ended this video on a banger. Hollow Empire by Sam Hawke gets 4 stars. I did say last night when I was like sobbing that I liked it more than The World We Make. No, that was just my emotions in the moment after. The endorphins of having finished a book and having it be so epic and amazing just makes it feel so much better, which is why I like to sleep on things and then think about it and then run it through Copile with a more objective brain. Anyways, The Hollow Empire was definitely a really great read, and I really, really hope that Sam Hawke comes out with more books in this series, because this does close out the problem that was going on in here very well, but it leaves some threads open that I think could be very interesting in expanding this world and this story even more. And I want that. I want Sam Hawke to be able to do that. So if you guys are at all interested in a really political fantasy, please pick up The City of Lies and The Hollow Empire, because I think you would love it. The disability rep in here is amazing. Both Joven and Kalina are just fantastic. And I love them as characters. I love them so much. Also, the audiobook is narrated. Kalina's parts are narrated by Maura Quirk, who narrates the Gideon the Ninth audiobooks. She is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, audiobook narrator. Listening to her narrate this, I was like falling into my couch, just like, comfort, as like the most atrocious shit was happening in here. I'm like, it's Maura Quirk. I'm having the greatest time. So, all right, let me organize this massive pile of books from least liked to most liked. Oh my god. Okay, and last, The World We Make. What a stack. What a journey. Again, I love doing this challenge, and I know this month I was in kind of a weird reading mood as well, and a lot of these books just, even though they were on my TBR, just didn't like excite me in any way, but I'm so glad that I did end up reading all of these, even if there were some losses, because not only has this allowed me to remove this amount of books from my TBR, but it's allowed me to complete duologies that I needed to complete and continue series that I needed to continue and read some books outside my usual genre. Thank you so much to my friends for helping me out with this one. This kind of extended my Friends Pick My TBR, because 11 books versus my usual 6 or 8. But stay tuned for one in the near future. I don't know when I'm going to do this next. As you guys know, I love doing this challenge, and it helps me shrink my physical TBR by a whole bunch of books. I'm so glad that I read all of these this month. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. Leave me a little book emoji down below and let me know if you read any of these, or if you have a favorite book that you want me to read, because I would like to know. Anyways, my friends, I will catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.